I was on mute. No, I said, thanks so much, Lisa. We know how busy you are and really appreciate you being here to answer all these questions. So thank you. Yeah, so I guess to start off, the Gantt chart activity, I guess I wanted to start off with a question as to how do you use calendars in general, or what do you use them for? So if anyone would like to write something in the chat, I'll type the question in the chat, or if you'd like to unmute, that would be great too. Thanks, Lisa. Yes, throughout the year for our annual awards timeline. Very much so. So kind of for managing projects and kind of making sure that all the different steps are getting done. Neva, I love that, to keep my entire life in order. Yes. Very much so.
I live by my calendar.
Yes. Oh, awesome, Cynthia, whiteboard, yeah. For tracking grants, that's really great. Oh, planning vacations, yes. That's a very important use of calendars. Yeah, so let me, yeah, sometimes like we at ITEP use it when we're thinking about when to schedule events. Like we've got, I'll show you in just a minute, kind of having a list of when all our events are occurring. And also when we're putting together like a proposal, we may have a calendar just to keep track of different dates in the proposal. So yeah. And so how many people, feel free to, raise your hand, know what a Gantt chart is? Are people familiar with those? Or type in the chat if you might be.
This is Nikki. It's one of my favorite stories. I literally, when we were doing that big proposal, Karen, was it in the fall?
Yeah.
April, I was like, that is a Gantt chart. I did not know, like Karen created it in like hours, or maybe in an hour or something like that. But I literally just found out, and I didn't realize that's what they were called.
That's a good point, actually. Maybe you know what a Gantt chart is, but you don't know that it's called a Gantt chart. Yeah, and I thought some thumbs up for McKenzie. So yeah, so let me try and share my screen here. We'll kind of show you, well, actually we can show you the funding calendar Gantt chart that Elisa mentioned. So let me get out of the PowerPoint. So, so this is our cohort website, and let's see here. Let me put the link in the chat so that you can look at our cohort website and use it if you'd like. Cohort website. So, let's see. Elisa mentioned the funding calendar Gantt chart. So this is the Gantt chart. And in contrast, maybe to what a traditional, or this is typically what I think of when I think of calendars. A Gantt chart here. Oops, where did it go? Go back here. We make it smaller. See it more fully. You'll see it has kind of, in this case, it has different funding opportunities in this first column here. And then it has the application open and close dates. And then you see this reflected in calendar form. So, so here are the different years, and then here's January, February, March, April, May, and so on. So you see these different grant opportunities and when they open and when they close, and you see this in this kind of visual way. So so it can kind of it can help us visualize you know, when different things are occurring and how they might fit together. And so we really like these as tools. I'll just also see if I can show you. Have it. Oops. Here. Got my task list. Let's see. Oh, ITEP events. So, yeah, so another thing, for example, that we use it for is like, so these are all our different events. You can see here's the cohort retreat, and then Nikki, Kelsey, and McKenzie went to the Seminole tribe training. So you can see when all these different events are occurring, and you can also add in columns, you know, to add in who's doing what or where it's happening. And we'll show you a little bit more. So to download the Gantt charts, thanks, Cynthia. Thanks much for letting us know. If we go back to our website, show you how to download these and show you a little bit more how to use them. Okay, so now we're back at our cohort website. So if you go up to the top, after the latest funding opportunities, you'll see that we have links to both a daily Gantt chart calendar template and a monthly one. And so, you know, if it's a shorter time frame, you might want to use a daily calendar template. And if you're thinking about a longer term project for several years, for example, you might want to, or even a year, you might want to use a monthly template. So to get to the daily calendar template, if you click on that link, you'll see it here, and then you just click on that, and then you can download it. And then also, if you want to do the monthly calendar link, and this is for, it says construction schedule, but we use this one all the time. You can download it here. And these are all in Excel, and they're all free. So, which is a really nice feature of these Gantt charts. And another way that you can use Gantt charts, and Nikki just mentioned this, but just to emphasize it, is like sometimes in proposals, people like to see a timeline of activities, and it can be a nice, concise way to show when different milestones are happening in your project. So just to show you some features, so these are the ones that we downloaded. You can just insert a column if you want and add anything you need. Joel Niemeyer was on the call yesterday, and it was interesting, you know, he was adding budget numbers and different things like that. And again, you can say who's responsible for that particular task. So it's pretty easy to just add columns. And this is the monthly one. You can also change the color if you want to. This P is for purple. If you do B, that's blue. G is green, R is red, and so on. And if you would like more details about the different Gantt charts, you can just go to this help page here, and it'll let you know how to change different things. For the daily Gantt chart, it also has this thing where you can keep track of the progress. So you can do 25%, and then it'll gray out if you've done 25% of it. And you can also add columns to this one as well. It's a little harder to change the color because these are in conditional formatting. But you know, that can be, if you guys would like to play around. I'm trying to remember where the conditional formatting was. Lisa brought this up yesterday. So you can add different rules and change the color of things. depending on different rules. So that's another cool feature of the Gantt charts. Oh, yes.
I'm gonna insert myself. What do you mean by rules? Like different, what does that mean? Like rule, sorry.
Yeah, no, great question.
What's
Yeah. So you could say, and I don't know exactly how to do this, but say Nikki, this is, oops. Let me cancel this for a second. So say we put your name, say Nikki, you're responsible for task 1, task 5, task 2 under phase 2. We could insert a rule that says if this cell is Nikki, we're going to change the color. What do you have a favorite color, Nikki?
Black.
Black.
Green's good. Green's good.
Like we'll change this color to green, and then you'll know that all your tasks are highlighted in green because you've made a rule for it. And I would have to get more into the actual. I think you can like add a rule, and then
that's cool.
and then you can do like an if then statement or different things like that. And like here, you can change the color. So
thank you. That makes it a little bit better. I mean, more clear. So thank you.
Yeah, no, great question. And yeah, Cynthia, I just saw that I missed yours, but you use calendars for setting up meetings. Yes. Okay, I missed that earlier. Yeah, so I'm just if it's helpful, we could also go through an activity like a Jamboard activity and try and set up like a proposal timeline and just think about different things like that. But if you guys feel like if that's something you might be interested in doing, we can do that. And if not, we can definitely move on to meeting facilitation and agendas and minutes, which is a very important, rich discussion too. So would anyone like to do a Jamboard activity and then kind of create a proposal timeline, or we could create a timeline for a project or anything that you might like. Just throw that out there. See if there's interest. And no pressure either. I'm guessing you probably have done this quite a bit. Or any questions or thoughts about Gantt charts or ways that you've used them, or other calendar tools? Are there other calendar tools that you've used? Okay, so Cynthia, is that a thumbs up to doing the Jamboard then? Okay, awesome. Yeah, and in cases of interest, and we wouldn't go over it now, but there's other calendar tools like Microsoft Planner where you can kind of assign tasks to different people. And Nikki, what was that one that you were using? Trello? Was it? Trying to remember. I feel like you were working on a project once where you were using that a lot. Okay, so here, let me put the Jamboard link in the chat. Let's see here. And let's see, I'll wait for a minute to see if people click on the link. I love seeing the animals that pop up. There's a tiger and a crow and a penguin. I love it. So it's awesome. Yeah. Oh, we've got a giraffe. Oh, a capybara. And a buffalo. How cool. So if yeah, just to let you know, in case you haven't used Jamboard before, and we don't have anyone on the phone, do we? I just want to make sure we include them. Okay. You can click on this sticky note and then you can type something here. And then you can, if you want it to change the color, you can make it pink, and then yeah, then it'll appear here. So that's one way to use these Jamboards. So yeah, if we do like a proposal, what are some big milestones in developing a proposal? Please feel free to either type a sticky note or put something in the chat, and we can add it to the Jamboard too. And feel free to unmute and talk too. Deadlines, yes. Figuring out the budget. Oh my goodness. Yes. Thank you. Tribal resolution. Yes. Goals. Cool. Very important to figure out our goals. Any other big milestones for figuring out a proposal? I'll add one. How about maybe identifying partners? That can be a goal. Partners if desired. Let me just check the chat real quick. Make sure. Oh, are you? Yeah, thank you, Elisa. I am. Thank you. Let me share my screen. So this is the Jamboard. I appreciate that.
Well, I mean, if everyone's just looking at the Jamboard directly, then it doesn't really matter, I guess, but
No, but it's helpful. It's no, thank you.
Yeah.
So in terms of due date, or where did that one go? That one, design phase, yes. Signing up the, oh, these are good here. Okay, yeah. So we have leadership approvals, absolutely. So I think, yeah, so for last year, in terms of the deadlines, if we were thinking about the BIA, the TCR grant, I think it was it due July 5th?
Yeah, last year, I think July 5th or 6th.
Okay. Oops. Well, let me just get this over. Yeah. Thanks for moving. Yeah. So if we have the deadline, so that's like the biggest deadline. So if the proposal is due July 5th, when do people like to submit the proposal? What kind of date would we want to set up for that? Oops.
I mean, I think a lot of us might submit it on July 5th.
Yeah. That is very true. Maybe just to be safe, we'll submit it on July 1st. And then when we have problems, we'll end up submitting it on July 5th. So we could put like a goal, we'll submit it on July 1st. And then maybe if we are a team on this call, like, does anyone want to volunteer to submit it? Like, Julie, can I volunteer you?
Or me.
Or Nikki? Okay, thank you, Nikki.
I was typing the chat. Yes.
Nikki's gonna submit the proposal. Thank you, Nikki.
Thank you for getting me out of that.
I got you.
Yeah. So when would we want these other things to happen? And feel free to move them around and put them in like a linear order if you like. Or not linear, it can be kind of happening at the same time too. Yeah, tribal. Thank you. Thank you to the llama. Oh, letters of support from partners, yes. looking good. Awesome. Oh, letter of intent. That's a good one. Yeah, so yeah, this is so great. I'm loving this. Yeah, so then you can kind of do these sticky notes in a rough fashion and then kind of figure out what dates you might like to do something, and then you can go to your Gantt chart. Let's see, do I have a Gantt chart open? And then we can just if what's going on here? Why is it not did I do something to the Excel? Oh, I'm still in conditional formatting. So it's like, you haven't finished your conditional formatting. Yeah, so then we can, we have submit proposal. So Nikki was submitting it.
Mhm.
And then if we go back to our Jamboard, so we've got this design phase and goals and letters from partners. So we can do kind of up here, we can do design phase. And Cynthia, maybe if it's okay, oh, that's awesome. No, we loved it. I was glad you were removing them around. Goal, or maybe we put goals before the design phase, goals of the project, design. So Eva, we'll put you here. So but basically I won't go through the whole thing, but then you can add dates, and then you can kind of see who's responsible, and you can kind of see it in this visual format, if you will. Which can be helpful, as so if you're having a meeting to talk about the proposal, then you can kind of see what's going on in this visual way. So but yeah, thanks everyone, that was fun. I love Jamboard activities, and it's such a fun way to do like just kind of get a work plan for a project together. It can be really fun, and I'm a sucker for sticky notes with different colors. Okay, so I will stop there. Yeah, any
Karen?
Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was going to ask, I know it's a little after the fact, but I've just been looking for one and found an example. I was trying to find like just a kind of a simple Gantt chart example that we've used for projects.
Yeah. Would you like to share your screen?
Yeah, let me see if I can share my screen.
Oh, I think McKenzie, since you're the host, you're
yeah, I can share my screen.
Okay, cool.
Just don't make fun of my tabs. Okay, you see this okay?
Oh yeah, cool.
So I was just trying to find like this is a really basic one of just taking like all of the project phases and the like taking the project phases and then taking the explicit like benchmarks that we put in the proposal, so translating that, and that's what the details kind of column is. And then usually I like breaking it out by like, often because proposals will have you do kind of the benchmarks by quarter, and so doing the timeline that way across time. And so, something that's kind of that design phase, right? Breaking out each component. We have I usually put together a different one that has like people's tasks, but you could, of course, add that column here for the tasks, or assigning like who's doing what. And so, this is just really simple, basic. I have 0 tech skills. So yeah, just wanted to show just kind of a real life example of, we'll take like, here's the steps that we've said we would do in the proposal, which also helps for reporting on. So can then go back and mark like, hey, this is when it actually happened, where we are in the process. It also helps for like progress reports along the way, just so then you can reflect like, okay, is this something we got delayed on? This is when we said it would happen. So we can articulate the narrative, you know, why was there a delay, or this has been completed, or this is 25% completed, you know, whatever the requirements are for the reporting process, just to make that a little less bananas and not make your head explode.
Yeah.
So
That
just
was
kind of, yeah, working through the different phases and timelines of it, and then working kind of across time. Yeah. That's all.
Oh, thank you so much. That's so helpful, and it's really great to see an actual project timeline and how you've used it. Thank you. Yeah, any other final thoughts on calendars or helpful tools that you found? Oh, Monday.com. Yes. Do you like that, Cynthia? And you might, I realize you're an internet with, yeah, love it. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, so there are these other even like tools like Monday.com or Trello or Microsoft Planner that I wonder if we can go. I wonder if they have an example. But they might use different ways to keep track of tasks, and you can assign different tasks to different people with due dates. I can wonder if I can get into our Microsoft Planner, just so you know these are out there too, if in case helpful. I'm trying to get into our Microsoft Planner, so we have to go through oh, there. So let me see if I can share this real quick. Planner. So yeah, so you can view, like, so this is Microsoft Planner, and you can create these different, they call them buckets. Is Monday.com similar to this? Cynthia, I haven't used it. You know, like, so we have you know, different tasks, and then so here we're working on the retreat report. So you know, Kelsey, this is you, this is me, I'm doing this is a date, and you can do things like, if I want to see what I'm responsible for, and oops, I've got something overdue, you can do it like that. You can also view it in different ways. You can view it like a grid. I really like this kind of, it's called a Kanban board. Yeah, so anyway, just to let you know that this is out there, you can view it in a calendar view like this as well. So I will stop sharing, but there's other tools out there that were, oh, so let's see. Oh yeah, Cynthia, thank you. Sorry, I wasn't able to. Yeah, that'd be great if you could share Monday.com and, oh, Airtable, interesting. I haven't heard of Airtable. Oh, cool. Oh my gosh, this looks so great.
Oh yeah, that looks like fun. Oh, I like it.
Yeah, Monday is awesome.
Yeah, thank you, Cynthia. That's really great. Yeah, and yeah, Neva, did you want to say anything about Airtable, or and no pressure either?
It's just one that we've been starting to try and familiarize ourselves with for, like, yeah, project planning. And it seems like it's very similar to those other ones where it has lots of different view options. You can have it on a calendar, you can have it on a list and connect. It's like similar to Excel, but also similar to project planning. I don't know. I'm not super familiar with it yet, so still experimenting.
Well, thanks for sharing. I hadn't heard of that one, so it's great to hear about a new one. And yeah, Nikki, it looked like.
Yeah, I was wondering if a lot of these resources that are being brought up, like like Airtable, Microsoft Planner, they need internet, right? You need internet access, or can they be used like offline?
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, with Microsoft Planner, I don't think you can use it offline.
Mhm.
I don't know. Yeah, Cynthia, but can you use Monday.com offline?
I think Airtable is completely, internet based as well.
Yeah. No, so yeah, that's a really great point, Nikki. These are definitely internet-based. Reliant.
Okay. All right. Well, just thinking about our relatives who have broadband access
Yeah.
issues, maybe there's some alternatives, like paper, a whiteboard.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Like I guess with Google
Mhm.
spreadsheets, or even Excel spreadsheets, of course those can be used offline, but
Yeah.
just thinking about that, so I'll stop there.
Yeah, that's such an important point. Thank you so much. Yeah, so the Gantt charts that we showed you, those can be offline for sure. So I'm really glad you are thinking about this. Great. Well, thanks everyone. This has been fun. And with that, McKenzie, would it be okay to pass it over to you?
Yes, sounds great. Thank you so much, Karen. That was fun to learn about. Hi, everybody. I'm McKenzie Jones, and I work with Karen and Nikki and Kelsey in the Tribes and Climate Change program. And I have gone to a lot of meetings. So I'm going to talk to you about meetings today and give you a sense of just how you can design meeting agendas and take meeting minutes, as well as some tools for facilitating conversations. And I'd like this to be as informal as possible. So if you feel like you've got a question right then, you can just come off mute. There aren't a lot of us here, but we'll be doing some work in the chat, hopefully some polls if I can get Zoom to be my friend today, and then some time for Q&A as well at the end. So with that, I'm gonna share some templates that we've put together for you all in the chat box. If you'd like to open those, if you have the ability to. If not, we'll share them later as well. But let me see if I can get this up and shared. Just one moment. I'm going to share a PowerPoint with you all. And we always hope that this will work. It always works when no one's on the call, and then when people are on the call, it doesn't work. All right, let's see. Okay, can everybody see my my screen? Oh, not that. Sorry, I have a very messy desktop. Okay, let's see. Let's try this again. How about this? Can you all see it now?
It's loading, McKenzie.
Okay.
Yeah, it's just a dark screen for us.
Okay, give me 1 second. Let's try this again. I might not go into full screen, and then you all will just be able to kind of see the outside there. We'll see how that goes. All right, let's try this one more time. Okay. How about now? Can you see?
It's doing the same thing. Do you want me to try and screen share for you?
Yeah, give me 1 second.
Okay.
Here. Sorry, just give me 1 moment. I think it's almost there. While I get this going, let's say I'd love everybody to just write in the chat. How do you decide if you should have a meeting? I know we've all been at meetings that maybe felt like they could have been an email or a phone call. And we've also been on email chains that definitely felt like they could have been a meeting instead. So yeah, what helps you make that decision that something should be a meeting?
When it feels like there needs to be enough back and forth amongst different people that you can't just do it over email.
That makes sense, definitely. And I think Julie said for collaborative planning processes. Anybody else? Project development, you need input from the members of the team. Yep. How about, does anybody else have any? Relationship building, that's true, Kelsey. I think connectivity for sure is really important and makes a big difference. All right.
Hey, McKenzie, we could see your screen. Maybe it's just me. I'm not sure, but I could see it when you were not in full screen mode in Canvas or in
That was
Canva.
me. That was me, Kelsey. Sorry. I found your presentation.
Oh, okay.
Do you want me to just show it?
If
Sorry.
that works for you, yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, let me okay, let me see if I can.
Okay, I'm gonna stop sharing.
Yeah, let's see. I think, but I don't, how do you make it full screen? I'm not familiar
So
with.
if you go up to present
Okay.
and then presenter view.
Okay.
There
How's
we
that?
go. Perfect.
Okay, thanks.
you.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay, so this is a great example, by the way, of how you troubleshoot these things. We'll be talking in a bit about the difference between virtual and in-person meetings and how that affects facilitation as well. But yeah, if you are, okay, so we've talked about, let me bring myself back. So I've got my brain where we're supposed to be. So we're going to consider some questions. Karen, if you could skip to the next one and then the next one after that. Thank you. So that first question of, does this need to be a meeting, is an important one. And generally, we think that the reasons that you have a meeting are if you have to make a decision, if you need to brainstorm or collaborate and create ideas. Another can be for connection, to facilitate connection between people, or if, say, from a community meeting perspective, or even in an organization, if something complicated or difficult is happening and you need to kind of process people's feelings and thoughts on it before moving on, that is also an appropriate reason to have a meeting. So another question you want to think about is within that context is, well, what is the purpose of the meeting, right? So it should be clear up front, and once you know what the purpose of the meeting is, it helps you figure out, okay, well, what is important and what isn't? What should we be spending our time on, and what's not as important if it doesn't happen? The other piece is we've all been to meetings where we don't really know what we're doing there, right? And we're not sure what our role is or why the meeting is being held. So being really clear with people up front about that is important. And similarly, it's important to understand who needs to attend. So making sure that you have the right people at the table is really valuable, because if your purpose is to make a decision, you want to make sure that you have the people who can either shed light on that decision or have power over making that decision, or are impacted by that decision if, say, it's a community meeting. Another question to consider is how urgent it is. Sometimes we hold meetings all equally as if they're all equally urgent, when some things can happen in a few weeks or a month, and some things need to happen tomorrow. So, and then last but not least, it's important to figure out how long it needs to be. I think sometimes we default just to an hour for meetings, when really they could be 15 minutes or half an hour. And sometimes we try to jam 2 hours worth of conversation into a 1 hour meeting. And then that feels rushed, and you know, unsatisfying for everybody when you're trying to achieve a certain goal. So could you next slide, please? I am all about considering human needs. So I think it's really important to think about how we set up the room and to support meeting flow. So if like Kelsey was saying, you're trying to support connection, then you would try to do, say, groupings of tables so that people can talk to each other rather than instead of, you know, more stadium seating when they're in rows. Similarly, you want to think about where the presenter, if there's going to be a presenter, where they're going to be located. Breaks are really, really important. People will take breaks if you don't give them to them. So they'll check out, they'll start getting on their phones, they will go use the bathroom. And it's better to just give people schedule in breaks and make sure that you're making time for people to give their brain a rest and participate fully. And then accessibility is really important as well, both from ADA perspective and making sure that you're accommodating either people who have visual or hearing impairments, but also making sure that they can physically access the building if they need to, as well as if you're holding a community meeting, you really want to make sure that you are providing either food or childcare, or a location that makes sense for people. The example I always like to give of this is I worked many years ago for a city in Arizona that was trying to do a park renovation, and the plan was to hold that conversation with the community in a community center several miles away. And so we pushed really hard to make sure that meeting was actually held in the park, where the people who are using the park could stop by and share their thoughts on the future of the park, but also where people could kind of have a real conversation about you know, what how the park was designed and how it could work. So thinking about those, where you're holding the meeting and who it includes is really important as well. Next slide, please. So why do we need a meeting agenda? It helps keep the meeting focused. It ensures that important topics are covered. It, you know, can save time by providing structure for the meeting, and also assigns responsibility for either presentations or action items and conversations. Next slide. So some key elements of a meeting agenda. And we did share this, we shared both a process agenda, which is kind of the back end agenda that you wouldn't share with the attendees, but it's for you in thinking about how you set up the room and what you need to bring and how much time you're going to dedicate to each item. That can be really helpful in structuring the meeting and making sure that you're not forgetting anything. And then on that public facing agenda, there are things like the time and the location, a welcome or blessing, if that's appropriate for your community, and then expressing what that purpose of the gathering is, as well as introductions to make sure that, you know, I know oftentimes we have meetings with everybody in the room knows each other, but sometimes we have meetings where nobody in the room knows each other. And sometimes we have meetings where just a few people don't. And so making sure that we do introductions so that everybody's aware of who's in the room and what their role is can be really helpful. Then we have action items, things like presentations or items you need to make a decision on, and then a recap or next step. So are you going to meet again? And you know, what needs to happen at the end. And then next slide, please. So it can be, I think, hard sometimes to prioritize agenda items. I know Karen and I were talking about this yesterday, and there's lots of different strategies for this. Sometimes if you have a few things that you are not controversial and you need to, they'll only take a minute to get done, people do what's known as a consent agenda. And that's more of a formal meeting strategy where you say, okay, these 3 items nobody has any problems with, and we're all just going to vote on them right up front, sometimes in one group, right?
And, so I don't know, just kind of putting that out there more to the group of thinking about how also we balance, right, the need for getting into those deep, points and those deep issues and not cutting that off, while also recognizing people's time and, you have 5 minutes left and like 3 decisions have to be made in the next hour, so I mean, there's always kind of that balance. So we're just kind of curious how folks, think about that or kind of work to kind of strike that balance in your own work.
Yeah, I'd love to hear that too. I know I've always struggled with that from a community. I know it's different in all communities, but it's also the same, right? So that we'll talk about this a little bit in the facilitation piece, but the trust is just so important. And that especially, at least for me in my experience as a government employee, there's obviously a lot of distrust. And so you end up doing a lot of that, either kind of talking about the past breaks in trust, or which is important, or the conversation can often go that way. So yeah, I'd love to hear what other people think about that, and feel free to just hop off mute. Or if you're more comfortable, you can put it in the chat box.
Yeah, it's such a great question, Julie, and so hard to answer.
I think some part of it is building those relationships up front so that you have those relationships in the community, where you can say to somebody, I think this is a really important conversation. And also, in order to move this piece forward, we need to be able to have this conversation today, this other conversation. And so let's make time for this conversation. And that's just when you really can't escape having, when you've got something that's due, it's sharp deadline that day or the next day or something like that. Otherwise, I would say it's more important to just have the larger conversation. Yeah, I don't know if I know we've got, if folks from the community are not interested in talking about it right now. I know Karen and Kelsey and Nikki, you've all experienced this as well. I don't know if anybody else has anything else they'd like to share. Okay, so Cynthia said if it's staying on topic, I have an action list that's on the screen, and I bring up what it is that is being talked about back to the action list, and we'll type in follow up to move it back on course. Nice. Thanks for sharing that.
Yeah, this is Nikki. I agree with Cynthia. Kind of bringing it, circling back and ensuring like next steps even, so people leave with a sense of a task or something that will be discussed at the next meeting, rather than just leaving it open. and hanging in the air, because I've been part of these planning facilitation meetings, and there was just deep discussions and conversations without accomplishing anything.
Yeah.
And that really left me feeling unprepared for the next call, or for the next I think it was a workshop or something like that. And so I was so you don't want to leave people feeling unprepared and uninformed. I hope that's answering the question.
No, I think that's a great point, Nikki. And I do think that, again, I think some of that is you do need to balance those conversations about the hard topics with also movement forward, or people stop being interested in participating in your meetings, right? Because if nothing ever happens, then you're just kind of guilty of the same things you've been doing in the past. So it's an interesting balance. Well, to be respectful of our time, I'm gonna move on to this conversation, since we're kind of having that conversation already. Going to try to launch a poll. Hopefully, Zoom will be on my side this time. I think we've been framing these conversations as though you're having in-person meetings, and I'm curious what percentage of your meetings, knowing this is imprecise, but are virtual versus in-person. Because the tools for facilitating virtual meetings are really, really different than they are for facilitating in-person meetings. And I think we've discussed, actually, would it be valuable for you all at some point, and feel free to drop it in the chat if we did just a virtual facilitation conversation, because that's certainly something we can. Well, you've got a lot of virtuals. All right, I think we've been misunderstanding how often people are meeting in person. It's helpful. I think we have 3 or so people left who haven't taken the poll. If you've got a moment just to fill it in, I'm going to wrap it up in about 20 seconds. All right. Okay, yep. So we're seeing a lot of virtual meetings, very few that are majority in person. Okay, great. Well, thanks for sharing that with us. So we can definitely, if there's an interest in that in the future, we can talk more about how to do virtual facilitation.
Ooh, that would be wonderful. I like discussing this. I think we can always give each other like these really great tips on how to make them more effective, because there's sometimes, you're waiting for Karen to do all the talking, or you're occupied with, I don't know, whatever it is, your other work, all of these reasons. And I have been working on this for a long time. I have a lot to say, but I won't, dominate the conversation. So I would love that.
Yeah, no, I think it would be definitely interesting to do that. So we can, if that's something you're interested in, let us know. But I also just launched one more poll, which is what's the biggest challenge you face when facilitating meetings? Time management, encouraging participation, managing conflicts, decision-making, or if you've got something else, feel free to write it in the chat. And I'm going to give you about 30 seconds longer on this before we close this poll. And this as an example is just one way to mix it up. So when we're talking about virtual facilitation, sometimes you can do, you can do polls, you can do chat, you can do breakout rooms, all sorts of things. Awesome. And if we've got 2 more folks who haven't done it, if you'd like to, okay, great. We're going to wrap it up in 5 seconds. Okay, perfect. Share the results. So it's a real mixture of challenges that you're all facing, everything from time management to managing conflicts, encouraging participation, decision-making. All right, well, thank you. Okay, so we will hop on in here. Karen, could you take us to the next slide, please? There's Nikki. We've got a photo of Nikki here for you all. Some of the benefits of effective meeting facilitation are just increased productivity, improved communication. I think the most important one is, is more inclusive decision making, and then also stronger team relationships. Next slide, please. So what's the role of the meeting facilitator? Everything from preparing the meeting and the agenda to leading the meeting, managing the flow, ensuring that all attendees have the opportunity to participate. And then I think a really crucial element is creating a safe environment for the necessary work to get done. And what do I mean by a safe environment? In this case, we're definitely talking about psychological safety, right? So I have been in meetings where somebody asks and they genuinely want feedback for direction on something. This is a member of the leadership team, and then nobody says anything. And this is because they don't feel safe sharing ideas. And for either they don't feel safe sharing ideas because in the past other people have not supported them in sharing their ideas, or they have gotten in trouble for offering criticism or something along those lines. So part of that is creating an environment where people feel safe having dissenting views, or just brainstorming ideas that might not be that great, which sometimes, like in order to get good ideas, you have to brainstorm bad ideas too, right? So having a safe space where you can do that is really important. One of the ways that you can promote that yourself, because you can't always, it's not something you can fix on your own. It's more of a leadership issue, but it's also a thing that that you can start chipping away at, is being vulnerable yourself. So in my case, like I will reach out to Karen and Nikki and Kelsey after this and say, hey, what did I do well with this presentation? What could I do better? And when they give me feedback and say, oh, McKenzie, this wasn't very good, or that was, then I can respond to that in a reasonable way and say, okay, no, that's helpful, and not get defensive, right? So thinking about the role that trust plays in these conversations is really important as well, and could be a whole, I'm sure, 6-month project. Just thinking about how you create environments where people feel comfortable. Okay, next slide, please. Oh, and actually, I should say on that topic that one of the things that we've found in the past that works really well, if you're feeling like one person is always facilitating the meetings and that they're either kind of getting stale or people aren't participating, that can be helpful to rotate who's facilitating the meeting. And that both divides the labor of doing that work and make sure that everybody understands what's involved in doing that work. But it also brings a fresh perspective because everybody thinks about these things differently. And so this gives you a chance to kind of incorporate different perspectives, and also, especially if you have newer team members who are not as comfortable with, say, public speaking or with facilitation, it can be a low risk way of getting them up to speed. So I mentioned this before, but setting the tone is really important, creating a positive and productive atmosphere, establishing ground rules, which we'll talk about in a moment, encouraging active participation, and then managing conflict and group dynamics. Next slide, please. So what are some examples of ground rules or meeting agreements that you found effective? If you wouldn't mind putting them in the chat. An example that I always like